Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast, Supercoach edition. We are saying it once again. Been a little bit of a break, and team reveals are out there. Our first with this team builder now out. Thank you, NRL Supercoach out there. Thank you, Tommy Sangster. It's bigger and better than Christmas, in my opinion. We have been a very, very busy page today, as you've all seen with the posts and things like that. Working out some of the best player options, all that sort of jazz, to give you guys the very best content that we promise to give you throughout 2025, and for this podcast as well. We're going to start with a bang, and we'll go all the way through 2025 with a bang, and then finish with a bang. So make sure you're following us, not just on the podcast or YouTube, however you're watching or listening to this episode. Make sure you give us some love on the social media pages as well, because there'll be a lot more content-wise, Supercoach wise on the on the pages moving forward around the social media. So I've got myself, Jesse, and Trav along for this one. So keen to get into it. Our teams will be out very, very shortly. But Jesse, I'll throw to you. You're the Supercoach whiz here. Take it away.
It feels like Christmas has come early, hasn't it? It's fantastic. I love it. It's so good. Been hanging for this day, trying to get all the stats and stuff. Me and Trav the other day when we were having a couple of drinks the other night, and we were just making our teams up on a pen and pad, and a bit of a notepad, doing some quick math on averages, and turns out we weren't too far off too, which is pretty good. So we're pretty much almost there when it came to actually building our sides. But man, I've been having fun with it, in the bits and pieces of the day that I've been able to go through and look at the prices and look at the players and a couple of the guns, the lack of cheapies, we'll get into all of that sort of thing. But mate, it's refreshing. It's good to have that team picker. Trav, what have you been playing with today?
Supercoach.
Yeah, as always.
That's what. Supercoach Clause came out for us today and hooked us up with some entertainment. You sort of touched on it a little bit. I've struggled a fair bit with my team around the rookies and the cheap options, and trying to sort of figure out that. It has been tough to build. So I will say that with my team, there'll be significant changes there, because obviously it's only the start of December. Most clubs are on their way to holidays now for a couple of weeks off over Christmas, New Year's. And then we know that come January, February, all the talk around who's going to be these rookies and who are going to be these guys come out. So there'll be a fair bit of changes through that, which will change a fair bit of my team. I think if I can scrape some, I really need to find, if I can find another 100K, I'm really stoked with my team. So I'm just trying to find some of those rookies that I can find 100K. I just need that 100K.
Yeah, no, that's it. You've been, how confident are you in your side? First very early team reveals, Joel, before we get into them.
I would like to say I'm quite confident. I'm loving it. Obviously, doing all the content and that today for the page, and a lot of help I know the boys will be listening. So we've got a few things happening behind the scenes. Shout out to those boys, Riley, who's been helping put together a few of those posts. That nice Supercoach landscape that you've seen now that we'll use throughout this year. Thank you to Riley for doing that. He's jumped on the team, and Luke, you'll meet him throughout the year on probably the Sunday night. He'll go over a bit of a recap for us, but he's been doing some teams as well. But for me, I love it. I love being able to chill a little bit more now. Jess is the host. I'll be here on the Supercoach a lot more now, which I'm really excited about. We promised to deliver plenty this year, which is going to be awesome. But my team, I think I've got a couple of little diamonds in the rough here. I think I've got a few that I haven't really heard many people talk about today, and I think they're going to be absolute glamours.
Glamours. I like
glamours.
that. Well,
Glamours.
Like first early thoughts on it, because I was obviously looking into them and looking at the guns and premiums. We've got 11.8 to spend this year, so it's a bit of a bump, but we've also got the flex position to factor into. And I feel like it cancels each other out. I don't think it's getting that little bit of price rise gives us the benefit and luxury to be getting 3 gun fullbacks and actually field half decent sides, because even with the rookie flex that I've got, and I'm pretty sure both of you two have at the same time, I'm finding it very difficult to build a team of guns. And we sort of knew that going into this season with the averages that we come off with. all of the guns and all of the established, solid players, they're all priced up. They're all quite expensive. And last year we had the luxury of, I wouldn't say luxury because none of them really panned out too well besides Crichton, but the second row mid-range, that was everyone, the mid-range year that we're calling it. And we don't really have any of them now. And I don't feel like we've got any sort of mid-ranges across the board. I think all of them are quite, they're all priced up or they're all hitting their averages. The thing that I do want to touch on is the guns returning from injury, because it really opens a lot of doors to get these mid-range cost guys at the moment that will inevitably shoot through the roof. I've picked out 4, and I'm pretty sure like they're the obvious 4 that most players will probably put in their sides pretty quickly. First one being Tino. Big Tino, it's huge. His price come through at 531. We didn't really know what it was going to come in at because we're just speculating on where the drop was going to be. But he came in 531. Obviously, still dual. Previously, last season, he was priced at 791, which is massive, coming off a 77.5 point average in the front row as well. So, absolute gun, lock in. The only deterrent is they've got a buy in round 1. So you do have to factor in the round 1 buy, but I don't think it really makes too much of a difference. I think you just start with him. I think you get him in and you lock it down. Tino, in your side? Trav?
Yeah, well, look, I was pretty excited with it. I only just got to look at the draw. I realized after playing with all these teams, I hadn't looked at any of the draws yet, and I hadn't looked at the buy schedule. It did sort of make me question a little bit, but I'm sort of with you. Just with the price, it's almost just you just do it. Just lock him in. Make sure you have some decent reserves that can just plug the hole for that round 1, where notoriously the scores aren't mammoth anyway. So you can probably get away with that week of just having one of those guys that come off the bench for 35, 40 minutes, plug your 40, 45 points and just get by with it. So Tino is almost, for mine, an absolute must-have, and I think he'll be one of the most owned players by the time we start in round 1.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I have him. Actually, in my first initial team that got posted, he wasn't in my team. I did the Supercoach draw review and said Titans players are a sit and wait. The first round buy is a big deterrent to me. And Joel, you've made like very good points. Like that is a really good point. First round, a lot of these bigger guys big name players don't really come out early and play well. I think for me, the fact is that he's just missed 12 months from a significant injury. He's got the first round bye. He then plays the Bulldogs. And I don't care what time of the year it is. Defense that the Bulldogs showed in the 2024 season will still continue and will be there from round 1. That's one thing that you can pride yourself on. It's chemistry and attacking power that kind of dips away. So that's a big matchup. The Knights are unknown. They're an unknown team. I think the Titans should win that game, but it's still a big unknown. And Ponga is one of those players that can really shut a team down. So I think that's not a give me. And then as much as I am sort of have been listening to Joel bagging the crap out of the Roosters, they play the Roosters in round 4, and we just don't know what they're going to be like. So again, that could be a potentially tough round. The Dolphins match up in round 5, even though it's on the Gold Coast. I think the Dolphins are in for a really big year next year. So I am very keen on him. He is in my team right now, but I wouldn't say he's a lock. But I think he should bloody well be in 100% of teams by about round 4, round 5.
With
plus, yeah. Sorry, Joel.
Just with the Tino stuff, I would reading that much into a draw though, because I just think he's a worker. He'll work and just get his base, smash base. I actually like him early on to verse the better teams because I know he'll get through his work. After having a year off, he'll be coming back hungry. And as a Supercoach owner, I'll be like, I'm licking my lips. Work your ass off.
And that's a good point. I like it. But I also think, though, the Titans are going to be better too, and they've just got RCG. There's just a few things I need to see. And I think that the couple of players that the Titans have got that are coming through this year might be a good way for them to go, all right, well, we've got Tino, he's coming back. Let's give him 50, 60 instead of 80 or whatever it is that, we might try to work it and just work him to that and just let it be for a little bit. And that's what I kind of want to see first. And we're not going to see that in the preseason. So, yeah, he's it. I will say he's in my team. I know, but I think these are things to consider though, and that's the point.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And like you do get the extra week, obviously, price point wise, if you did want to wait on him, get him into round 4 before anything changes. And I suppose with that round 1, we've got flex players now, so we're going to kind of see that come into play if you do have to play just an average, regular old shitter off the bench for your front row just to cover him for a week. You're going to get your flex player featuring in the first round, so there could be something to look at as well. But I just think, just with the pedigree of Tino, I think it's too hard to ignore. 531. Next up is Campbell Graham, 505. Previously 703k, averaging just shy of 70. Obviously had his sternum surgery. I think he's pretty much back now, fit, firing, and probably raring to go under Wayne Bennett. Absolute lock-in for me. I don't think there's really too much to consider with this one at all. I think he's going to be in everyone's sides. Joel? You look like you're agreeing there.
Yeah, look, I'm all for it. I kicked myself early because the first team reveal I put out there today, absolutely forgot about him completely, but quickly rectified my mistake, chucked him in my team for this afternoon, which we will see shortly, but I'm with you. I think he's huge. Obviously, I think keep an eye on him just in his preseason just to make sure he is fully recovered from those injuries. I think one thing the Bunnies definitely have a lot of this year is depth in that backline position. So if there is any niggles, I feel like they might err on the side of caution with him and you might see him get rested 1 or 2 weeks. Just keep an eye on that. But for mine, if his name's a start in round 1, he's almost a must-have as well.
I love him. Very, very keen to have him. He was one of the very first picked, but he comes with cautiousness, and the draw is one of them. First trip to the Broncos. Sorry, not to the Broncos, to Brisbane to play the Dolphins, then to Wollongong to play the Dragons, then a game away again, Sharks Park to play the Sharks. Then he's got his first home game in round 4 against Penrith, and then round 5 against Roosters. So before he then has to go to Perth to play the Cowboys. So it's play with cautiousness around that. But yeah, he's in my team.
I don't think that's too bad of a draw, to be honest with you, to start with. Realistically, there's a couple winnable games there, but it's just the same thing as Tino. I just think far out, man. You've got the opportunity to get him for this much at the moment. I definitely would factor it. The other two, not probably to the same level as those guys, but Tom Gilbert and Zach Laybott both come back from injuries as well. Obviously, Tom Gilbert, I think he did his ACL as well preseason before anything even really kicked off. I know I drafted him one day, and then the next day after the draft, because we used to do it quite early, read the reports that he's done his ACL. I was like, well, shit, there goes my second rower. So 462 now. He was 602 last year with a 59 average. So he's got it, but we just haven't seen a lot from him in the last 2 years, unfortunately. So he's a player that I'm very keen on, but at the same time, I am again in the same boat with the whole caution side of it. I just think I would like to see how Tom Gilbert starts off and gets into it after like such a long layoff for the last couple of years. But again, like if he can get back to a good bit of form, like there's potentially about 15 points under average value there. So also got to start looking at that money making side of things too. And then with Zach Laybott, 389. We were very hot on him last year. Joel actually started with him. He was 465 last year, so he comes with about a 70k discount. Again, a bit patchy because he hasn't played too many games, but coming off a 4-game average of 57, he did get priced down, and then he kicked off round 1 with 103 last year. It was massive, and then again went to do his ACL. Probably I think it was about 5 rounds later. So, 2 players I'm keen on. But what are your thoughts on them, Trav? What do you reckon?
I am again going to play the cautious card, but it's a bit different. These two I am so high on because of their positions and their price. So Gilbert's at 462 and he's at 2RF, And we have to find some mid-range players with the way that the rookies are looking like, which we'll talk about later on, and the cheapies at this point in time. We have to find those mid 400K guys. And Gilbert's to me, he has to be a lock because of his price and his potential for that. Plus, the draw for the Dolphins is just like delicious. The first 6 rounds, the 5 games at home, like it's just, it's delicious. And so I'm really, really high on that. And the Dolphins need Gilbert, like they really need him, and they need him from the get-go. They need him in the preseason. So whilst again, you've got to play the injury cautiousness, and I play all my fantasy around trying to avoid injured riddle players or injury history players. I can't ignore Gilbert, and I'm really high on him, and Laybud as well. So like he's just exciting because he has the potential. In the games that he has played, he has scored well. He's 389. Like that just to me screams I've just got to pick him from round 1. And if he doesn't play, or he only plays 60, 50, whatever it is early, then I'll deal with that. I'll just sit in there on the bench for a bulk amount of time, and maybe halfway through the year he starts to really pick up after he gets the minutes in his legs and he plays. But again, he's also that center wing spot where we need to get another cheapie. So that they're locks to me, both of these two, based just on price and their position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both in my side.
For me, but you mentioned Jesse, I started with him last year, and I started actually with him in my 4 because of the price point. Now the price point, as Trav said, I'm going to put him on the bench, have him there. Hopefully he starts. Hopefully he kills it like I know he can from last year when he did show some signs. They've just lost Val Holmes and Kyle Felt. So 2 huge attacking weapons for that side. Some of these kids are going to have to step up, and I'd have no doubt in my mind he's one of those. And I think there's going to be some plenty of points to come. Scotty Drinkwater will try and link up with his outside men, which he loves to do. And I think and Dearden as well. So I think that'll be some awesome little combinations there, maybe for either looking at a draft sort of side of things as well. Gilbert's an interesting one. I'm not as high on Gilbert at the moment as many others are, because I know what you mentioned is a bit underpriced and things like that. But for me, I'm happy to stand off and just see what happens with Gilbert. There's another edge forward Dolphin that I'm very much keen on. And I don't know if I want to go into the season with both of those forwards in my team. So I'm going to be choosing the other one.
The other one.
Starts
with a Finne.
Starts with a Finne and ends with a Uaki.
Yeah.
And he's a hell of a lot cheaper.
He is a hell of a lot cheaper. What is he? Almost 100K cheaper. Yeah, I think that's a great pickup too. I've got them both in my side at the moment. But, leading into that same thing, the cheapies. There hasn't been a massive standout of cheapies. We've kind of spoken about it a bit, where all of the uprising cheapies that have coming through the ranks, they're established now. They've been playing footy for the last, 12, 24 months, and they're all kind of locked into their spots. We don't have Cam Pereira's popping up or Will Warbricks now. They're settled in. Last year we had like Talagi and who else was there? Schiller we got a wave of. He's gone. Kyle Hero was an absolute, gun. Bostock. There was heaps.
Canberra boys,
now
Galvin.
Yeah, well, all the Canberra boys are gone. Like they're all priced up. We don't Lockie Galvin come out of nowhere, and he's obviously 600K now. So I can't see anyone coming through the ranks just yet, and it's still a bit early days. But as far as I can see, really, there's no good cheap options under 350K, which is just it's difficult, to say the least, to put a team together, especially if you want to stock up with a couple of gun halves or a couple of gun fullbacks. But is there any cheapies that you guys have seen coming through that you're keen on, in that less than 350 bracket? Joel.
Take it away, Trav. Let go, Trav, first.
Okay. So I'll go through some of the cheapies that I've got. But you want it under 350? Is that what you're saying? Is it steadfast 350?
Well, you know what? To be fair, probably under 400 at this rate, because it's difficult finding them.
All right. So obviously we spoke about Labour. I'm pretty high on Ty Munro at 397. So if you want to go under 400K now, thanks for adding that. Obviously we've all got, or if somewhere we're sitting with Joel, Give me the pronunciation of Mr.
Iongi.
Iongi.
There he is. So yeah, so everyone should have him at 232 at this point in time. He's probably locked that fullback spot at Para. I mean, there's big talk about Joash, but yeah, he's obviously locked that. And I think just as a rookie, here's the first time in a very long time that you can actually start a fullback rookie, and here's an opportunity to do that. So he's one. I'm pretty high, and I'm the reason why I'm high on this is because I think he played 5 pretty good games this year. Showed some good potential, but I'm even more high because of the team he plays for in the shambles of the halfback line, or of that is high on Will Price. I think he was one of my first rookies I picked through that, so I'm really high on him. I think he's a good guy. I've also got Ilias at 348. He's under that 350k, but I think he's a good option for at halfback at this point in time. You want to go under 400. My favorite one out of all of these at this point is Horsburgh in the 2RF. He's 355, 500. I think he's a lock for 55 points. And if I can get that off him early days and a bench and a Raiders team that just needs him, they need Big Red to play. So I'm very keen on him. Now that the court case is over, as we spoke about in the podcast yesterday, I think Sandon Smith got to be 100% owned. Has to be.
Yeah.
Just for the fact is that he's 237k. Dual halfback hooker. Like he has to be 100% owned. And if you do not have him, I'd love to see where you've gone with your other rookies, because just that cost, that price is just immense. And my last one I've got that's under the 350 threshold is Mamazelis. And I think, what is he? There's an 80-minute hooker. Cook as an 80-minute hooker was a pretty bloody good player. So he's going into that role. Bennett's coming back. I think Mamazelis and his style fits the way Bennett wants, and the ball in his hooker hand, setting things up. So yeah, I'm pretty high on Mamazelis now.
Yeah, you pretty much covered a lot. And too, with the Sandon Smith play, where do you think his value holds most? I reckon hooker or half?
I've got him in the hooker. I've tried to find a way to put him in the halfback and not have Ilias, but more so because I wanted to try and play around, because I'm trying to sort of get that extra 100k that I really want. But I've currently got him in hooker. I think he's your hooker.
Yeah,
that's where I think the best value for him is.
Love a cheap hooker. The running joke continues. God, it's so good. Yeah, it's good. Like there is a couple there, but it does shift the cheapie bracket up quite high, because everyone that you've mentioned that are valid and options and actually starting viable players, they're all over 300, between 3 and 4. So you can stock your team up with them, but at the same time, like we don't have the 204s and the bottom dollar stuff to plug away with, really. So
who's going to be those center wingers, as you said at the start, just before? Like, who's that hero? They're always in the last few years of this. There's always a center winger that's come out and made us crap loads of money, and there will be rookies during the year. But like, Jesus, it's freaking hard to pick the rookies, and it's kind of had to make changes to our teams and what we're doing, because we just don't have those prices at the moment. I did build a team. I will be honest. I did build a team with 4 or 5 guys around that 250 rate that I just would throw them out just because I wanted the prices, in the hope that there would be players coming out to see what my team would look like. And it helped. So I'm praying to God for everybody that we can find these guys, because if you can, Jesus, our teams are going to look a hell of a lot different and a way, way better.
Yeah. Joel, you got anything to add on the cheapies there, mate?
I've definitely got a few that Trav has already mentioned, so I won't go with them. I've got a few. I got Royce Hunt, 249 at the Tigers now, a big signing for them. I'm expecting some increased minutes. He looks a lot fitter. He probably looks the fittest I've seen him look so far in his NRL career. Obviously, this is very early preseason and not funny to hear that for most players. But if he can pick up a few more minutes, I think he can do a little bit of damage and definitely make some cash for us. And he's that bench forward role, which can easily cover for Tino that first round. I got Bunty a foul, but I'm not too keen on Bunty, to be honest. He's just there to make things work. I've got CY Wong for the Roosters in my 2RF. It just has to be CY Wong season. 318K. Well, very big on him this time last year. Jesse, I remember us saying if Robinson doesn't pick him, who knows what's going to. He's got rocks in his head. But this has to be again. Like you look at their team, unless he goes to safe option, and we spoke about this a bit today with the Butcher brothers, which knowing Trent Robinson, he probably will. It just almost has to go, you know what, Wong, you've had your year against men in the lower grades. You've had a bit of the taste towards the back end of last year once again. I'm going to pick you round one. You need to make sure you keep this spot. And I'm hoping that's sort of what happens because for mine, there's definitely an edge spot there available at the Roosters to partner with Crichton. And I hope it's Wong's. Please prove me not. I don't know where I'm going with that. Please don't prove me wrong at all. I got Charlie Geimer from the Eels. He's my last forward there. He's at 232. Now, he'll just be a bench player, but he scored some okay points, but that was from starting as well last year. So just be a bit careful of him. That's more so, again, just to plug, as Trav said, you do need a couple of these players just to be able to make other positions work and get those higher up players. So I just think he, especially if there's a couple of early injuries in the forwards to the Eels, he can definitely get some increased minutes and definitely one I'll be happy to have there to hopefully step up if needed. In my backs, I've got ones that Trav hasn't mentioned. I got Robert Toya for the Roosters. I know that Trent Robinson mentioned him a few weeks ago, saying he's definitely in the mix for center spot, which I see on face value as crazy. But if Trent's not lying to us, which who knows, he doesn't like super coaches. We all know that for some time now. But 198K, and he's in the mix at the moment. He's in my team for now, and we'll just see what happens closer to, obviously, round one. The last one, who I think has gone a bit under the radar, is Stafford Toa, because I know the Tigers are looking a lot stronger this year, but if he can get a centre spot, it looks to me like there is a centre spot available there. He missed most of last year with injury, but the year before that, he was one of the Tigers' best players. So if he can come back at a 288 price point, I think there is some huge cash to be made on Stafford Toa. I think there's a few people out there sleeping on him.
I just think with Jack Bird and Dewey there, I just don't see where, if there is a centre spot available, I think those two kind of fill it, don't they?
Who?
Bird and Dewey over Toa.
Nah, Bird's been linked to go play lock. He won't be playing centre.
Well, that's strange.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really know how the Tigers line up in the back lines, but how much is he?
288. So at the moment, I think it's going to
really
be Skelton Taruva on the wings, Olam and Toa in the centres is what I'm thinking.
Have to wait and see on that one. But even still, there's not many options, so it's kind of what we're having to choose from.
Skelton?
Skelton's a gun.
Didn't you say
Skelton on the wing. Skelton with
sorry, I missed that.
Taruva.
Yeah. Skelton's a weapon, but I think he's 500k.
Yeah.
You pretty much covered all of them. There's only two others, well, three actually, considering we briefly spoke about Finafiliaki as well, 368. I think he's going to be fantastic, to be honest. I think he's just going to have a good little minute role. Even if it does make a little bit of value, it's just someone good to plug in. But someone who's less attractive in general, and probably, bane to all super coaches, Schuster, 265. I'm a little bit wary about this one. I'm not very keen on it. I don't like seeing him in the side. I did need someone cheap to plug in there, but you know what? Like, I could probably prefer just plugging away Charlie Geimer, to be honest. But there is potential there if he does get utilised, because he can be pretty good in the forwards, but it's very, very much a wait and see. And Billy Smith hasn't been mentioned, but I was very keen on Billy Smith. He's back in now. Fingers crossed he can stay fit. My God. But he's priced at 317. So he was lower than what I was expecting to be at 350. Which was, I was thinking that was quite an ambitious price drop, to be fair, considering he was over 500 to start last year. 317, he's very confidently in my side. I think there's very little to lose on that end. I was going to mention something about just the team structures and like, where are you prioritizing spending your coin? Obviously, with what we've just spoken about, how the cheapies are kind of a bit dearer than they were previously, we don't have the luxury of going very heavy on certain premiums and then filling the rest of the side with the bottom dollar guys that will make money, because at the moment they haven't really come out of the woodwork yet. But where are you sort of looking of spending your coin priority? fullback,
I
centre
have-
wing.
Oh, go.
Go, Trav.
I have to have two fullbacks. I'm not doing that shit again.
Yeah.
So I am going two fullbacks. And
Teddy.
I've played with
That's fine.
combinations. I've played with combinations here. Like I started with Latrell Mitchell and Ponga. I then played around a little bit and then ended up with a Turbo and Ponga. I played around again and had a Drinkwater Teddy combo, which the more and more I think about, I like more than any of the other ones that I've had. So I like that. However, I've also started to sort of consider a few different things, and watching preseason is going to be a big thing. But I'm starting to get higher and higher on Pappenhausen. So I'm very, very keen to see how he goes. And geez, his price is just, oh man,
It's so good.
it's so good. And it's 660, I think it is, isn't it? So I'm just getting really high on him because Pappenhausen is a freaking gun, and he played so well towards the end of the year, and he played really well during the finals. And if he can go and have a preseason, I'm going to find it very hard not to have him as one of my fullbacks. So I think the fullback option there, you just got to load up. The problem with that, and what I'm trying to see is, I don't think you can load up with three fullbacks though. I think it's too expensive. So I think two fullbacks. I've really tried to get money into my center wings. I really want to get three. So Carraz and Graham were my first two, and then I found a way to get Marju in. I'm not eager about that just yet. But I wanted to plug him in because I like his price at 513, and I just wanted that third potential gun center wing. So I think three center wings has got to be. I think that has to be where we sit. And I actually, and as weird as this might sound, but I think this is the year of loading up in your front rowers. And putting your cash in your front rowers. You've got to have two starting front rowers. You really do. Like last year, I watched so many teams and had a look at some of the teams even that were in the top 10 who started with mid-price and, rookie front rowers last year. This year, I think you just have to put them in there, plug it, and let it go for the rest of the year. I think there's money to be made. I think there's points on offer. They're my sort of three. And I also, it's funny, this is a weird one to say too, because halfback is normally the dual. Got to play those two, plug and play. I don't think you have to this year. I think you can put one in and have one rookie, and I think you're sweet.
Yep. No, I fully agree. What do you reckon, Joel? You're a bit the same.
I'm going to disagree upon the having to stack your front rows. I think at the start with the price of, say, May and Tino, I'll just almost lock them in, get one of like your Royce Hunts or something, and off you go. Like, I don't think you need to go top tier. I think May and Tino, if they can deliver what we anticipate they'll deliver on, they'll be right there with those 750K sort of front rowers in your AFBs and things like that. I don't know what the role is AFB is going to play at Cronulla yet, but I'm not going to go all in on him yet either, because I'm just, for that price point, and when I've got people that are a lot cheaper than him at this stage, I'm more than happy to go May and Tino lock in. I've definitely agreed with the fullback role. I've done that since I started super coaching. I always go that's literally the first position I stack, put both my players in that I want, no doubt. I'm not going to change anything there. Lock the two in, off we go. Wing centers, I've got three guns this year. So I've changed up a little bit from last year. Last year was very much the cheapie side of things. I've made sure this year I'm going to get some guns, and I'm going to get some of those workhorse guns who have the good base behind them to help that start of the year trend where there's not a lot of points being scored. So it's a lot of that, more of that working and getting the work done. And hopefully the players like your Carrazes and your To'os and stuff deliver. Even Graham, back when he was playing regular, he was one of those workers as well, getting some good base stats there as well. So having those sorts of base players is what I'm really looking at. And I've even made sure I've got one questionable, maybe two guns in the two RFs as well. I wanted to make sure I'm starting the year this year with a couple of those guns, where I remember last year, Jesse, we were speaking about it. and I didn't want to. We were more so on like that mid-tier sort of range, and we're all about mid-tiers. But now I've realized it sort of hurts. If it doesn't work like it didn't work for a lot of them last year, it's so painful to go ahead and go get someone else. Where if I can start with 3 or 4 of these guns at the start of the year, if it doesn't work, all right, it might cost me 100 or 200 points early on, but it's not going to cost me 6 trades to fix it. It's going to cost me 2 trades. That's so much better.
Yeah, that's well, we all got caught out with the 2RF thing last year, but there was a plethora of them to choose from. And I suppose there was a couple that paid off, like Curran, Crichton. There
Well,
was a
Crichton
few that
started in the 400k,
exactly.
and that was the difference, right? So I can't see any 400k 2RF this year that's going to be another 700k at some point.
Not a chance. No.
No.
So we did have the options there, and they did explode. And then obviously now they are priced according, which is the hard part. But always double gun stack fullbacks. I think you just can't go wrong. And now with the flex, you get the option to get that cheap, rookie fullback like we've sort of wanted to. You don't really want to take away from one of your guns just to get some quick cash, but now we have the position to do that in, so it's really handy. We obviously saw quite early how much center wings explode for big points, so we've all sort of shifted our money in towards the center wing, which is fair. And I agree with you, Trav. I don't think the double gun hook, the halfback, is necessary now. I think that did take up a lot of the budget, going like the Cleary-Hines combination, and obviously with the way that the price is set, going cheap on your half opens the doors to be able to actually fill your side properly without making it look terrible. But more to your point, Joel, as well, I think when you said that, the cheaper route for your front row is that you're not going the cheaper route by getting May and Tino. They're expensive.
Yep.
For a front row, 100%. We were talking about 350k starters. We were going
Low
off. Flegler
400.
is going to be my dearest at 430k. And we were set on 400 being the cap for your front row. Now I'm happily putting in Team A at 600k, basically, being like, sweet, that's going to do me for the season. I'm not going to waste trades on front row like I did last year. I'm not going to try and hope that these 40-point plotters are going to make me 100k over the course of 12 weeks. It's not going to happen.
And play him 80 minutes, Benji. Play him 80 minutes.
But do you know what's funny about that too? Yes, absolutely, Joel. Do you know what's funny about that too, though, Jesse, is we're talking about Terrell May at 590, and we're going, and there's a back of my head going, oh, that's pretty cheap, hey? Like I've got Fenimore Blake at 700, and I go, yeah, so shit, yeah. Now I can load up my front rower, and I've got them cheap options.
No, exactly right. And
like Haas is 6. Like there's still these big options in the 600k, but I can get May for 590. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I just think May for 590 is a bargain, considering we know what we're going to get. And after that, James Graham interview, I'm so G'd for him. I just hope he gets big minutes. He knows he wants it. I think the club will do it for him as well. And we're like, super coaches are just going, yes, just give me 80 minutes for Terrell May. And Tino obviously 530. He was almost 800k last year.
Yeah. And I'll touch back on your halfback option. So the thing is, right, Hines, we know Hines is a super coach scorer. And to start the year last year, he was a super coach scorer. But there's just so much has changed in such a short period of time with him that I don't think you can lock him in. And although he's 700, mid 700k, you just can't lock. There's just too many variables. Like we just don't know what's going to happen. However, if I'm really high, and if the Sharks go and talk about make some major changes, and he goes to say to a fullback or whatever, man, I'm putting him in straight away. Straight away. But there's a lot to play out in that Sharks field and in that Sharks list, and Hines is not someone I've even looked at picking because of it.
Yeah. I haven't really considered Hines this year, and I'm the first person to put Hines in my side. And I think it might only take me about 1 or 2 weeks of Hines, seeing him in good form or relatively good form.
You're also the last one to take him out of your side too.
Exactly right. I'm a bit of a sucker when it comes to Nico Hines. I like the wet hair look. So as soon as I see even 2 games, he's coming straight back into my side for sure. But we've spoken about Hines' game where he breathes and makes points, where other halves have to work for him. He still kicks, he's still going to make his points. But obviously the last half of last season, it all fell apart for him. So you just got to hope, see for his sake, that they get a good preseason in. His combination with Trindle's had another year to gel on, and he comes back good, because I actually think he's going to be quite low owned. I don't think his ownership's going to be anywhere near what it usually is, even at his price now.
Sure.
Yeah, 750 Hines
I
in the
wouldn't be
pod.
surprised. Depending on how it goes, I wouldn't be surprised if people don't start Cleary and put a Hines in there just as a risk, as a major anti pod risk.
Mm. We can always go to Hines from Cleary too, if it doesn't, look like it's happening. But yeah, there's just a difference in the teams. But did you want to? I don't know. Did you want to touch on our teams now? I suppose we've been talking enough on them.
I reckon we can. Let's get into it. So this part of the pod, if you are listening in the podcast, continue to do so. That's all good. I would recommend jump over to YouTube if you haven't already. Now you'll be able to actually watch and see our physical teams. This has been updated from our post so far. So as I said, we've played around a little bit. If you are listening on the podcast, all good. We'll try and just be as vocal as we can when we're in describing our teams, then just go from there. So Jesse, you're first up. So you can go through your teams, and then at the end, me and Trav, I guess we'll ask you our own questions for your team, and then I'll go through any questions we did receive via the social media pages.
Cool. Well, as always, I'll always try and skimp out on hooker. I just don't think it's a very high upside position, especially to start. I'm always happy to run cheapies. So I'm running with Mamazelis, 300 odd K. I think he's just got a lot of value. And even I've just thrown Tom Starling on the bench for him as well. It could very well be Sandon Smith if I shift something around there, but he's in my half at the moment. So gone for the two cheap hookers. Again, as we just spoke about, I've got Tino and May as my front rowers, and I think I'm just going to stick with them for as long as I can, to be honest. I don't think any reason to change. On the bench, Royce Hunt and Nafahu White, who I'm expecting to have a bigger role for the Roosters too. That 360K could be anyone, because there is a few options in front row still, but I haven't actually gone through the list and humoured too many because I know the two that I want, and I'm just going to sort of set and forget. In my second row, I definitely spent up more than I did previously. I've got Olakau'atu in at the moment at 660 odd. I like the Manly run. I like Olakau'atu, obviously, he's a gun. And if I am able to find a bit more coin, I might shift it up a little bit higher. It just depends on who I sort of go with, but all the big guys are right up there. So Olakau'atu is one of them. I'm massive on Papali'i at the Panthers. I know a lot of people aren't yet, but I just think 585. I just think you can't really go wrong. He's a gun. He's proven in the past, and he's in a great team. So that's for me. And Tommy Gilbert, I have thrown in there about the obviously price point. Bench, Finafiliaki, Horsburgh, and Schuster. So just sort of filling in the gaps. Cleary, I feel like I can't start without him. I just feel dirty not seeing him in my side. So he's my main halfback, and I've got Sandon Smith in the other bench spot too. And my 5'8", Metcalf and Will Price. So a little bit cheaper overall, but just great value, I think, overall. Center wing, I've gone with a couple of guns here. Maybe not to the extent you two have, but I'm going to probably shift that around. Brian Toto is my main center wing. It could be Karaz if I find a few more thousand, but for the moment, I love Toto. I think he's the best winger in the comp. So I know the draw's not very easy considering, but he's always good. Campbell Graham, Billy Smith, Zach Laybott, all potential. Tyrone Munro, Jack Bird, and Jackson Polo. They fill out my center wing. Again, definitely far away from being locked in, cemented in my side, but to fill the side out, they fit the bill. I've got Latrell and Ponga as my fullbacks. Always like a kicking fullback, especially. And for my flex spot, I've gone Ayongi, like basically everyone on earth have, just for the value for the rookie in the fullback slot. So that's my starting first team of the year, subject to change about 5,000 times.
Hey, can I ask some questions? I'll go.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was going to say quickly, while we have the Ayongi thing up, we didn't get a chance to quickly talk about that first. We want to just quickly go over this flex thing because we have had a couple of people ask throughout the day for all our posts and things like that, the best way to go about it. What is it still? There's people asking what is it? So maybe just a quick explanation about flex, how it's going to work, and why, as you've rightly said, Jesse, it seems like majority of Supercoaches so far have gone the cheapie option instead of stacking 3 fullbacks.
So the flex position, Trav could probably explain this a little bit better because he has used it in the past in different codes. But basically, you're going to get an extra scoring player in your side, and the lowest score in your starting 17 or 18 now will drop out, which is to cover your HIAs, your early injuries, your really unlucky, whatever it is. That score will get taken out and will be covered by your flex position. You can also captain VC your flex as well. It doesn't affect the loops overall. You can still do all that stuff as well, but it's just an additional player to cover the lowest scoring player in your starting side. So that's just a quick brief on the flex. The reason I've gone Ayongi is because none of us have ever had the luxury of really committing to starting a rookie fullback. The upside is very high. We know that there aren't many cheapies at the moment. We know he's pretty well set to be a guaranteed starting fullback for the Eels, replacing Gutho. And at 238, it's an easy, quick way to make money early. I'd imagine down the line, probably later into the season, maybe around Origin side or whatever changes, if you've made enough money, you can turn that flex position into anyone you want. You can put any position in that player in that position as well. It doesn't have to be a fullback. You can go duels if you want to get yourself a bit more coverage. If there's anyone that stands out, you just want another player in there. But for me personally, I just think with the potential cash rise and the cash grab we can make early days while trying to increase team value, I'm very happy to put him there. I might even move him to my bench fullback spot and then play another fullback, a gun fullback in that flex position, just so that they are my other big priced option, because both the scores will count, where I'm going to have to use a reserve on my second fullback, where I could probably cover that somewhere else too. So there might be a little bit of gameplay around that too. I'm still getting my head around it myself, but I think, when it actually comes to setting my lineup, my two good fullbacks, my guns, are going to be my starting and my flex. And Ayongi will probably just go onto my bench, potentially unplayed.
Yeah, no, you've
Love
you hit on all the points, especially with the point around your last point on putting a gun as the fullback flex, or at the flex spot instead of the rookie. That's exactly my sort of starting to think of, and how I've been thinking recently about it. I tell you why I've got Iongi there, and it's simply because if I want to put another fullback and run three fullbacks, the cheapest fullback that I would consider is Ryan Pappenhausen, and he's still 430k more than he is. So where the hell am I going to find 430k throughout my team? I'm already sitting here scratching my head trying to find that. I want 1,000. I want 100,000 to try and play around with things and fix problems. How the hell am I going to find 430 for that? So to be very simple, that's why I've gone that. I also, like you have said, let's pray and hope to the Supercoach gods that this is a Buller 2.0 who just rises 400-500k in the first 5-6 weeks, because my intention here is to try and turn Iongi into a gun fullback, so I have three as early as I bloody well can. So if that can be at round 6, round 7, sweet. It won't happen by then, but not maybe someone drops an enormous amount of money, and that's where, and then I only rises a fair amount, and I can fix that gap. But that's it. I think and the way I want to play the flex, I'm looking for someone to try and make some really quick cash that I can turn into that, and that fullback, I think, is where that's going to happen the quickest.
Yeah, I agree.
Question for you, Jesse.
Yeah,
With your team, IPAP. So Isaiah Papley, I know you are huge on him. I am one of those that are very hesitant on him at the moment. Are you concerned about the forward depth at Penrith, how deep it runs? They've got a number of second row forwards there. They've got a number of middle forwards as well. To me, it seems like there's going to be a lot of minute sharing, a lot of rotation going on. I'd like to have my starting TRS as almost 80-minute players if I can get it. Are you concerned?
I'm not really concerned, to be honest with you. I think even if he does lose a few minutes, I think Penrith are just such a good side. His try scoring ability is massive. We saw it at the Eels. A lot of his highest 80 point, I think he's averaged 79 2 years in a row at the Eels, the highest second rower for 2 years running. So a lot of that was based around how many attacking stats he got with the tries. So I don't think it's going to hinder him. I think he will get back into that groove, and the Tigers obviously just sucked it out of him. So I think you see a resurgence there, maybe not to the levels of the Eels side of things just because of the minutes, but even still, if that's the case, I think he's underpriced for what he can deliver. I'm not really too worried about the minute side. I think with Fisher Harris leaving, they're going to fill a spot somewhere, whether it's Sorensen. Liam Martin tends to have some time in the sidelines as well. So I just don't think it's going to worry him too much. I don't think they really signed him with the intention of just playing him for 40 minutes off the bench. Like I think he's there for a reason. I think he's there to start, to be honest. So, I'll just have to keep an eye on the trials and all. But I'm a massive IPAP fan. I picked him up as soon as the Eels signed him in my draft league that year, and he took me to a final and won. So, there's a lot of sentiment there with him, and I've run him in Supercoach too. And like you get his 50s and you get his scores here and there, but you just never disappointing. Like he's got a good floor. He always seems to do a job at the very least, and I think it's just going to get better personally. So that's where I'm set on.
Trav, got any?
Yeah, I've got a couple. There's a couple of big changes you've had over the day. As we all have, which we'll talk about. But I think it's important to point it out because I think they're both in, or one of these changes are both in Joel and I's team. And if I look around to a lot of them, they are there. You were very high on Munster. And I remember talking to you on the weekend about how much you wanted Munster in your team. And he is now not in your team. So talk about that. But then the other one too is that, and I'm seeing heaps of it, and I'm not high on him at all, but you originally had Lukey. Now you've taken him out, but I know that you're still very keen on Lukey. So I'd like you to talk about those two.
So quickly with the Lukey thing, I'm a bit less keen on him now that Bateman signed for the Cows. Because I did want a basically max 70, 80 minute Lukey because his points per minute traditionally are just through the roof. So again, I'm probably not as high on him as I was. It was more that 500k placeholder too, and I liked him the most out of the 500kers. But again, I could be persuaded otherwise. Like I still think he's a great player. Even for draft teams too, I think he's a really good draft pickup as well that you could probably get quite late. The Munster thing was very dependent on Sandon Smith being 5'8". I'll be completely honest. If I was able to put him at 5'8", it allows me to save 200k, which I can go from Metcalf into Munster. But unfortunately, there are no cheap 5'8" outside of Will Price, and he's 60k difference. I can't put him there. I have to shift the hookers around, so I kind of changed the structure a little bit. I'm still not done. I'm still very keen on Munster. I just need to find an additional 160k, and I could probably do that going like Ola Kawatu down, but there's not too many players that I want to drop. I have actually looked at going Ola Kawatu down to don't know yet. Latrell down to Drinkwater, banking 100 there, and then it obviously gives me the money that I need to get Munster up at the same time. But I really like Metcalf. Like initially I had Metcalf and even on like a substitute side on the bench too as an option, but it was all really just hoping that Sandon Smith got 5'8" instead. And then there's a position that I can fill. But not finished. Like the hunt for Munster is still on.
One question that comes in a lot every year, so I may as well ask it now and get it out of the way before someone ends up asking you. Counting there just off what I'm looking at, 4 South players. Do you think there is a such thing as a too many of one club? And if there is, what's that number?
Yeah, I would say there probably is to an extent, but if they're doing well, which like South haven't done well for the last couple of years, I just think the value for those players that I've got are good. Like we know that Latrell will score well. He tends to pretty much all the time when he does play. I think Munro, as far as the center wing options go, there aren't many better at his price for what he can do. So I think he's just a given. Obviously, Campbell Graham at his price for me is great. And Mamazelis. Who else have I got there from the South?
Schuster
can be anyone, to be honest. Schuster could be an easy price drop to a bottom dollar second rower for a bit of coin. He's just sort of in there. But I haven't really considered Schuster, to be honest, as a South player. So, I would probably, realistically, considering buys and everything else, I would probably stop at 4 at the most. I think a lot of us had Roosters players last year, and we sort of capped out at 4 most of the time. And or even Dolphins. I had heaps of Dolphins too last season. I think I really stopped at like 4, but I don't think too much into it. It's just mainly around buys, and if you've got coverage, then it doesn't matter anyway. But if they're good players and they're scoring well, then like there's no reason to not have them. So,
Trav, got any more?
Nah, no more for me.
So, a couple viewer ones for you, Jesse. For Instagram, Charlie.brand has asked you, no Aaron Clark, question mark. You must be an Aaron Clark fan. He's asking you why you haven't picked him.
He is hot off my radar. Sorry, I must have missed something there. I'll have to check the presses.
I've missed it as well, unfortunately. So, I'm just going to quickly open up the Facebook questions and just double check that. I think there was a couple there. No, he's gone to the Warriors now, so he'll be probably on the bench, and a Warriors sort of middle forward role will be his role moving forward.
Oh, well, you know what? I'll suss his value out. And if there is potentially a price jump or a value shout there, I'm going to shout you out because it could be a little bit of a masterclass because he did play hooker and they've always seemed to lose him. So Wade Egan's made of glass.
The other ones were mainly just actual questions about the app and stuff. So there was a couple that said, when do we actually get to use the app? So obviously for now it's the subscribers only. I think it's a month or so's time where it actually becomes just fully open, the app. From what I believe, it's normally about like a month, so it encourages people to subscribe. I guess now's the right time to plug our subbies group, I guess. And if you want to come somewhere and see some exclusive content for a much cheaper price, $2.99 a month, which is, I think, a bargain, especially compared to others out there as well. I've noticed a few pages have some, and they're almost like $10 a month and things like that. So we're only doing it $2.99. We can give you some exclusive content of our own. So if you don't want to spend up the big bickies, come to ours, and we will definitely help you out there. But that's all for now in terms of the questions. So guys, with the questions and that moving forward, because I don't think there is actually too many so far, all getting used to things, which is all well and good. I am working on something. It's going to be like incentives to actually ask questions in, and each week there'll be a draw. There'll be a couple of people chosen, and I'm in the middle of locking down a price for that on a weekly basis. So anytime you submit a question into the page, you will go into that draw on a weekly basis and literally can win a prize every single week. So just encourage that continual growth, encourage you to get to us. The more you guys ask questions moving forward, the better the podcasts are. We all know that from last year. There was a lot of really good podcasts where there was a mountain of questions in it, and it really helped us. So that's about it. So, and just for those listening, remaining salary you had there, 2,800, Jesse. So yeah, almost spent every last drop, which I know you like to get right down to the zero if you can.
100%. I like to go into it with $0. The lower I can get, the better I feel about it. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'll go next one. I think it's me actually. The next one. Yeah, it's me. So a few similar, a few not as well. So let me run through it. So my hookers. So I've got Peter Mamazelis starting and Sandon Smith. I've moved up to my hooker position, 237. Like as you all have said so far, you simply have to pick him, in my opinion. He's going to be starting, especially while there's no, some of the halves there are out. So I would definitely be starting. He'll be starting probably 5'8" at the start of the year. And thank you very much. Tino and May have already said that way too much already so far. So Bunty Foa and Royce Hunt are my benchies as well. Again, Bunty will probably be gone in the next 2 days. Not happy at all with that one, but we'll see how we go. This guy stung me, or like didn't sting me. I had him in draft, and we kept saying, I wish we could have him. Isaiah, I've just put him straight in. I think at the start of the year when we were always looking for those sort of base guys and just people to get through their work, for mine, I straight away thought of Isaiah Yeo, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to start him. I'm going to get those points early. Hopefully he just stays around his sort of price point, gets around that 70, 72 point range on a weekly basis, and I'm laughing to start the year. So Zach Hosking, 513K at the Raiders. Now Elliot Whitehead's gone. I feel like he'll be almost an 80-minute edge back rower. We've seen him do that in the past, and he's scored some very handy points in that position. So I think that's my little dime in the rough there. I think I've found one, boys. Jump on, and thank me later. Fine Fuiaki, I think he's almost a guarantee 80-minute edge back rower for the Dolphins next year. So really keen to get him on board and start 360 odd K. I think he's definitely one to pretty much pen into your squads. I've got White, Sarah Wong, and Geimer on the bench there. Nathan Cleary, as you said, Jesse, starting with Nathan Cleary. There's just a little bit of caution there. Just obviously it's a wait and see with his shoulder injury. And when he does come back, They've obviously got the Vegas game to start with. There's already question marks saying that Penrith might not push him. And if that's the case, obviously we go and see what else is available. My bench halfback is Lockie Ilias. Jerome Luai, I've bought in. I've bought into the hype. He seems to be talking the talk. He's only the main guy there at the Tigers. I think that's bad news for Galvin owners. I think he'll really eat into Galvin's points on a Supercoach basis, and I think he will get all the points. Now, that is definitely one I'm not locking in at all. Jerome Luai is definitely someone that I can see merit with going elsewhere, but for now, I'm liking what I'm hearing. I think there's some upside with having him. Will Price, I am in that same dance with you, Jesse. I'm hoping that he gets picked. I have said now for a number of weeks on our podcast that he would be in my halves for the Newcastle Knights alongside Cogger. And if that's the case for 310K, I think he will make a fair bit of money because I think he has a lot of attacking upside and will link with Ponga perfectly. Centre wings, I've gone pretty heavy with my centre wings. I did mention it. So I've got Brian To'o, Jacob Carraz, which I absolutely love. Both workers, like I said, and with Campbell Graham, I feel like all three are known for being their workhorses for their teams, and I think that could be some really good base early on. Zach Labert, so I had him last year. As soon as he was going to become available this year, would have him again. Please do what you can do last year. Centre wing on the bench, got Billy Smith, Robert Toya, and Stafford Toa. And my fullbacks, Tommy Turbo and Kalen Ponga, with Iongi as my flex player as well. Remaining salary, 70K. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room at the moment. Again, there's a few players there that I'm not really setting this early on. Injuries and stuff might happen, but I've got a little bit of wiggle room.
I like your starting lineup, but there is nothing happening on your bench anywhere. Unfortunately for me, anyway. You still got to put four reserves down. I just don't know who you choose.
Easy. I'm reserving Ponga. Ponga easy. CR Wong will have his 80 minutes, so he can go on. I'll have Billy Smith for sure. And then I'm big on Stafford Toa. Telling you now, I'm big on Stafford Toa.
You've got 70K, I suppose you can't really go anywhere. Yeah. See, look, that's half the reason I haven't done what you've done with the centre wing, to be honest. Because I'd love to just get Carraz and Totten just to commit and be ready to go. But I just feel like, you still need to field a full side. And there's obviously so many good players in there, to be honest. I think it's solid. There's a lot of question marks around their minutes and positions, just even if they're going to play in general, like a Toa, Hunt. I know they're probably not going to last too long. Hunt could be something. Siwa Wong, I'd love him to start. I'd love him to play his price as well. I just don't know if he will, realistically. Geimer is the same boat. Toya's in the same boat. Stafford Toa could be in the same boat. So, just my first thoughts. But I really like the Zach Hosking shout. I'm a massive fan of Hosking. He's been heavily in my draft sides in the last couple of years, especially when he was at the Panthers. Huge scorer, man. He goes ballistic. So, yeah,
and he
at
was
that low
enormous
500.
to start the year last year. He was huge.
Yeah, he went gangbusters.
Yeah,
I just think, yeah,
long-term injury.
Yeah, so with Whitehead gone, yeah, man, Hosking could be like the guy that no one really looks at. So you could have found a little diamond there. And I love the yo play. Just got to do it, hey. Just got to commit, rip the Band-Aid off, and just get the best there is. So that's good foundations.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit of a worry, but at the same time, I picked their two big base boys, which is To'o and Yo, and they're the benchmark of the competition now for 4 years. Hit the ground running, make a statement once again. There's already question marks around them. I think they'll come out as a club and they'll be wanting to play their best footy early, which should be good things for super coaches.
I like it. Big scorers there.
I'll look
Anything
at my bench, though.
Yeah. You got money. You got 70K. It's surprising you got 70K considering who you've got starting, to be honest. I don't know how you do it every year. I always look at your sides and think, Jesus, how do you have even coin left? I suppose when you put Turbo in a side, you just think, oh, there goes all your money very quickly.
Yeah. I think early on as well, like I'm happy to plug a Sandon Smith, a Will Price, get me a 50, 60 for the first few weeks as a benchy, as a reserve, I'm happy with that. Like we keep saying it, and I'm honestly going to believe it now this time that the big scores won't happen until at least around 5 or 6 or so. By then, hopefully I've made a bit of money and I can start to get a bit more big depth, I guess, on my bench and get those sorts of players. But for now, prioritize, especially on the bench, to make money, to pick players who I think there's only upside in money-wise. Quickly make that cash early, which might mean, as I said, lose 100 points or so per week. Hopefully catch that up on the later slide, which we kind of did in a way this year on the page, where all three of us made some huge climbs late on because we had that money in basically the back end, and we're able to make a lot of plays with a few trades left over that a lot of people at the time couldn't do. And that showed me this year to make sure your starting team is setting yourself up for that long game of that run home.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about just making money, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to inject that cash.
What you got, Trav?
No, your team hasn't really changed from your first post, other than, I mean, you started with Katoa, went up to Yo. I think that was pretty much, and then you fixed your mental breakdown of Graham. But yeah, otherwise, I don't have nothing to argue. I'm not super high on Hosking for you in that, as what you're saying. But yeah, it's a good start. I'm also not too fussed, and I'll say the same thing for mine around what's on the bench, because I think they're just place value, really.
Yeah. Somebody will come out of the woodwork eventually and be like, these are your good options, and everyone will just lock to them. It's got to wait.
Well, realistically, like as I said, I've got Ponga, I've got Toa, Billy Smith, Will Price, Ilias, potentially Wong. White will have increased minutes. Hunt will have increased minutes, and then even Sanders Smith will be 80 minutes. I've got a number of people there that should be 80-minute players, plus some people who points per minute's quite good, and they look like they'll be getting increased minutes, which should mean only good things. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll go to Travs now. Off you go, big boy.
It hasn't loaded. I'll just wing it. Oh, no, there it is. Thanks. For some reason, it didn't come up. Sorry, everybody. So I have, as you guys have, I'm starting Mamazelis, and I've got Sandon Smith at the hooker role. I think his position is the best value for that is that low price hooker in Sandon Smith, as everyone is Tino and May. My front row forwards, I've got White, Noffa White, and I've heard lots of big news about Shibasaki, and he's certainly on my watch list, but he's also one that he's just play sitting at that value of hoping that someone comes through. My 2RF has actually changed a fair bit. and this is not my 2RF as such. So I will, because I've changed it again. So I've made a change. So I'll apologize for the change that's here. But I'll go with, the way you've written it here is different to the way Supercoach is showing it, Joel, and I've been thrown out. I've got Kula-Matangi. I'm very high on Kula-Matangi. I found a way to get him in. I like his price at $6.19. I think I originally had Cam Murray there at that spot, and there's still potential. There is talk that he might come out. He might miss the first month or so, but there's also talk that it'll be reassessed after his 6 weeks, which is after the surgery, which is coming up. So, whatever, but we'll see what happens. But with him out, the change with Bennett, I think Kula-Matangi is just due for a monster year. I think he's going to come out straight away and do that. He finished the year this last season in 2024 enormously. We said on the pod, Jesse and I particularly, and a few times with you, Joel, how much we really wish we had him, that he was a great buy pretty much every week. We just never got to do it. We couldn't get it done. And I really did wish it. So I've got him there, and I'm really happy to have him there. I'm so high on the duel of the Psychopath and he was my first 2RF that I picked. I just love the fact that he's hooker at 2RF. I think to start off with, he'll probably play the 13, which I think is just monumentous for him. He is your pure blown base stat guy. He's just a monster in tackles. He's a monster in runs. He wants to run 20, 25 times. He will get 10 meters plus, which is where you want it, which is the optimal point scores in Supercoach for that. So yeah, I'm very high on him. My plan with Plath is to play him for a little while. Hope that Mamazelis and Smith make some decent cash, and then I plug Plath into the hooker, trade them out, and move one of those guys up to a really big 2RF that's dropped in price a little bit. So that's my plan in my future planning for that. And then I've gone with Gilbert, very high on Gilbert too. I think, as I said to you at the start of this podcast, I just think he's that price. He's that mid price that we were looking for somewhere in the FRF 2RF that we need. And I've locked him in there. And then my 2RF bench, I've got Schuster, Seawong, and Big Red Horsburgh. And I'm real keen on the Bra. I think he's got a lot to prove. He's had a testing year this year. He wasn't on Ricky's radar, really. He got dropped. He played a fair bit in the Magoos. He is not he wasn't first picked and wasn't even close to being first picked, but I think he's going to have a big preseason. I reckon he's ready to go, and his price at $355, I think, is just fantastic. I got Cleary and Ilias in the halfback. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We've said that a few times. I've dropped down. I was very, very high on Tommy Dearden. I had Tommy Dearden in my very first team. I think that's what was posted. I still am very high on Dearden. And if I can find a way to get him, I think Dearden's just perfectly poised for a really big year. And I'm very high on him. But I've got Metcalf, and I think Metcalf's going to be pretty similar for that price. So I'm hoping anyway, someone's got to do something at the Warriors, and I think it might be him. So I've got him and Price, as we've all said. In the centers, I really want to play, as I said to you, 3. I want 3 centers. You just got to have 3. I can't afford 3, though, in terms of those top tiers. I would like to play Toto. I can't afford it. I have to find a lot of money to get Toto. I'm not sold on Lomax. I'm not sold on Holmes. There's a lot of center wingers that I'm not sold on the really high prices. So I tried to find someone that I think is going to be there, and he's not locked in by any means, but I am pretty keen on it in Greg Marju. So I've got him in there at 513. I think the potential is just screaming, get me points. And I'm hoping he's not just a cash grab and he turns into a 650 guy. I think he's a keeper for the long year. So I've got him there. I just have to have Karaz. I think he's going to be better than last year. To me, that's a no-brainer. He's just going to be better than he was last year, and he averaged, I think it was 71 in 2024. Anything better than that, I think he's going to be better. So with all the ways Adokar's gone, Skelton's gone, I just think there's extra points for him. Campbell Graham, as we've spoken about, and Munro, very high on Munro. Think he's ready to go. And then my bench on the center wings, but again, this could potentially change. But Laybut, Smith, and Purdue. Purdue's just sitting there because I wanted someone at 250. I have heard a bit about Purdue and that potentially he's going to step into that starting spot. But that's a big potential and a what if. But he's there as that 250K that I'm hoping someone pops up in the line. And my fullbacks, I've got Latrell Mitchell and Iongi, and my flex, I've got Ponga. But as I said to you, whilst I am very high on Latrell Mitchell, I have played with my fullbacks a little bit, Turbo, Ponga, and I've even played a little bit with the look of Drinkwater and Teddy. And I am quite high and looking for a big preseason in Pappenhausen. And I think if that happens, I reckon I'll be podding him I think. So yeah, there's a fair bit to play out, but that's where I'm sitting. Salary remaining is 7,300, and I inevitably will get that, and I'll do everything I can to 0.
I've got to echo what you said about Jacob Kraz. I'm huge on him as well because I think it's inevitable that he will be the winger moving forward for that club, which we all know for a Supercoach point of view, him on the wing, even though this year he did a great job in centre as well, but him on a wing, 24 odd rounds, honestly, that's mouth-watering stuff. So it's almost, and we're going to do some bold prediction stuff, and it's going to come out over the next couple of weeks. We've already put a few out there, which the posts are ready to go, but he could honestly become the top center wing this year. Would not surprise me at all. He could be huge. So I love that shout.
So much more higher on him too, because I don't think he plays Origin.
Yeah. He seems to be thereabouts, but it just seems like while Turbo and Latrell, if he's fitted there, then that story 2 backline spot's done. Then they've got to try and put the others on the wings and stuff like that. Zach Lomax has now established himself there after that amazing display. So I don't think he's sort of look back and he'd be unfortunate to not get to that stage because I think he wouldn't let the state down at all because he'd do a remarkable job. But at the moment with Toto, with Lomax, like you can't. Are you a bit worried starting 2 Dolphins in your 2RF?
No. No. I think they're too good to be. Look, there's a lot of risk in Gilbert for sure. But I don't think there's any risk in Plath, and I'm happy just at 616K to get 60, 70 points out of Plath. And look, if Marshall King goes down, which I feel like that's almost an inevitable thing, Plath goes into the hooker spot and scores just as good as what he bloody did this year and was a gun for me in the last 12 dozen rounds of the year. I think Plath's dual hooker to RF just means that I've already started to think of future plans. So no, I have no problems with those 2 at all.
And before anyone points out, Tino does look a bit different here. So I've been a bit fatigued by the end of the night doing these. It's been a long day. Sorry, guys.
No, I'm a big fan. Hey, I really like that second row. I'm massive on Kalama Tungi, man. It'd be so nice to see him. I've got a lot of changing around to do, but I suppose the only thing that sort of stands out to me as like a bit of a what if is the Greg Marzu thing. But like, everyone was so high on him last year because of what he did the year prior. We've seen what he does. Like he's a tackle busting machine. As long as he can get his, back into a bit of form, 500K, it's almost, geez, imagine Greg Marzu 500K last year at the beginning. You'd freak out. So yeah, I think the upside is huge on him. But even still, like you can get 50 points out of him pretty comfortably off a very average game. And then basically he cracks his value. So
but then he pops 3 tries in and gets 180, like and that's the Marju potential he's got, especially with the Knights early draw, especially with Ponga coming out to dominate early. I'm high on it. Look, I am very much watch that space with that spot. But I really want 3 center wingers. So I had to find something there, and that's kind of where I've gone with what I can afford at the 18th of December, 2024.
I like it. Looks good. Beautiful.
As well.
Well, on that, I suppose it's pretty much everything that we've sort of covered for the first reveal on the team pickers. Obviously, we're going to change these things so many times. We'll come back out too with another set of another team pick number 2, probably around the preseason time, I'd imagine, and then obviously we'll do a massive final, and that would be like a big one. But yeah, in between now and then, there'll be position reviews, more specific players. We'll definitely do the team previews like we did as well, because they were a lot of fun. But mate, anything to touch on in the last words out of there, Joel, Trav?
No, I think we've covered. I think we've done a great job. I think that's a exciting time for super coaches, obviously, subscribers. Awesome just to get back in there, have a look at things, have a look at the new players for new teams and new roles, talk all the hypotheticals. I guess the biggest thing is now just keep an eye on the club news, things like that, injuries, all that sort of jazz. Keep an eye on players like Cleary, making sure that they're going well with their recovery. That's obviously a huge thing moving forward. But yeah, it's exciting time.
No,
you're not a real super coach if you're not playing this every day, and you're certainly not a real super coach if you're not sitting on the couch with a beer in hand on Christmas Day, having a little crack at super coach for an hour or 2. That's real super coaches. So yeah, enjoy that period of time. Enjoy the Christmas period with it, and we're all blessed that we can play a few super coach video games over Christmas period.
Yeah, my camera roll is going to be full of screenshots. But on that, yeah, thanks for listening. Have fun team picking. Feel free to drop in comments. Rate my team stuff. I'm happy if you want to hit into the groups, and even if you want to enlighten us on some of the guys coming up in the ranks too. Like, we're still checking in and finding these little gems uncovered at the same time. So very keen to hear the thoughts of everyone. But yeah, thanks for listening.
And finally, as well, draft is still open. So if you are keen as a draft player, just get in touch with the page, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, send us an email, whatever it is. If you want to get added to the group, it's a huge competition next year. There'll be trophies, prize money, the like, FA Cup style as well thrown in. It's going to be huge. There's already up to 3 divisions. Looking at a 4th at the moment. So if you're a keen draft player, make sure you message us and we will add you into the chat. And away we go. But yeah, thank you. Thanks, boys. And thank you all for listening.